Hey everybody, it's me Estella, and today I am back with a video that's been very highly requested over the past several months during the college application season, and now that I've gotten all my decisions in. A lot of people over the past several months have been asking me about which colleges I applied to, how many I applied to, and then of course all of my decisions and which ones I got into, which ones I got waitlisted at, and which ones I got rejected from. So if you've seen all my reaction videos, then you probably already know which ones I got into and which ones I didn't get into, but in this video I'm just going to be summarizing all of the schools that I got into with which scholarships and things like that. I'm also going to talk about which schools I was waitlisted at and which ones I'm staying on the waitlist for, and I'm also going to talk about some very highly requested topics, such as why I applied to so many schools, how I afforded paying for the applications of all of these schools, and pretty much if I thought it was worth it applying to so many schools. Quick disclaimer at the beginning of this video before I get into everything, please watch the entirety of the video before commenting on like how many schools I applied to, or like the amount of money that I spent and things like that, and just like watch the whole video beforehand. And also I'm just talking about my experience, so I'm not like saying you apply to this many schools or do what I did. I'm just talking about my experience, so yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and find it useful / helpful / informative, and let's get into it. Okay, so first I'm gonna go through the schools that I was accepted to, then the ones I was waitlisted at and which ones I'm staying on the waitlist for, and then which ones I was rejected from. So I have the list on my phone, so I'm gonna get started. So I was accepted to Emory through their Scholars program. I didn't go to their Scholar Finalist weekend, so I didn't get the scholarship. But I still got the designation as a Scholar Finalist, and then they also said that I would be admitted to their business school automatically, so that was my first acceptance, I think. I got then into University of Florida. Following that, I got into Vanderbilt through their Mosaic program, and then later I also got their Cornelius Vanderbilt Scholarship. I got into Washington University in St. Louis through their Scholars program, and I did go to their finalist weekend, so I also did get a 2/3 tuition scholarship there, and it was called the Olin Distinguished Business Scholarship, I think. So I'm a scholar at Washington University in St. Louis. Then after that, I just started getting all the decisions in March. So I got into Notre Dame. I also got a scholar designation at University of Virginia. I got the Eccles Scholars, I think. Johns Hopkins, I'm a Hodson Trust Scholar, I think that's what it's called. So, and that's also a 2/3 tuition scholarship. And these are all merit scholarships, by the way, that I'm talking about right now. So they're not need-based financial aid, it's merit scholarships. So then I got into UCLA, and I also got a merit scholarship there. I think it was the Achievement Scholarship, I think. I got into Dartmouth, Brown, Cornell, UC Berkeley, University of North Carolina, and Carnegie Mellon University. So now for the waitlisted schools. I got waitlisted at Northwestern, which I didn't keep my place on the waitlist, UChicago, which I did keep my place on the waitlist, Princeton, which I did keep my name on the waitlist, Columbia, I did keep my name on the waitlist, and Georgetown, I did not keep my name on the waitlist. And then I got rejected from USC, MIT, Duke, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and UPenn. Okay, so that's my complete list of schools. So I applied to 26 schools in total. Yes, I know that is a very large amount of schools. So now I'm going to talk about why I applied to so many schools. Okay, so I know I have the feeling that a lot of you guys right now are probably wondering if I'm crazy for applying to so many schools, why I did it, and all that stuff. So the first thing that I want to say is that I am actually not an exception to the rule. and that there are very, very many people that I know that applied to 20 plus schools. Or I'd say another 10 people at my school at least applied to 15 to 20 schools, if not more. I do know of people who applied to like 21 schools, 23 schools at my school. And there was apparently, I'm not sure if this is just a rumor, but apparently there was someone who also applied to over 40 schools, although that's just a rumor. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but if that's true, then I have no idea how she did it because I barely got through 26 applications, so kudos to her. But yeah, so the point is that a lot of people applied to 15 plus schools. Basically, nobody that I know applied to less than 10 schools that were trying to get into like really competitive like top 20 schools. When I went to Mosaic, which is the program that, if you want to know what Mosaic is, by the way, check it out in my Vanderbilt reaction video, so if you want to know more about it. But basically when I went there, and there were a ton of people who were waiting for other college decisions at that point, from like the top 10 schools, top 15 schools, from like Emory, I think hadn't come out yet, WashU, all that stuff. And pretty much everybody that I asked how many schools they applied to, they all said at least 15. And a lot of people that I talked to applied to like around 25. Some people even applied to 30. So again, I want to reiterate that applying to over 20 schools is not really that rare anymore, especially amongst people who are trying to get into like an Ivy or basically just a top 20 school. Well, first of all, that's one of the reasons why I applied to so many. It was just because it was seen kind of as the norm, and that's what everybody else was doing. And I'm not saying that you should do what everybody else is doing, but it also wasn't like I was the only person who applied to 26 schools. So that's the number one thing. Another thing is that I applied to 26 schools because I'm overall not a picky person at all when it comes to my college experience. This probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I never really had a dream school. I had goal schools, which I'll talk about more in another video, but I also don't have really any particular preferences of like where I want to go. Like I have to go northeast, or I have to go to the west coast, or stay in the south, or I have to go to a business school. Like I don't want to go to a school that doesn't have a business school or anything like that. Like I don't really know how to explain it, but I just really, as long as I know I'm getting a good education for the value that I'm getting it at, I'm fine with going wherever. So for me, it was more about like I wanted to know my options, and I would be fine with choosing a school that gives me more merit aid or just more financial aid over a higher ranked school, like depending on whether or not I preferred that school. But it's more like I wanted to see all my options, and I also knew that I wasn't going to get into all of the schools that I applied to. I'm trying to find a way to explain this. Okay, so I guess it's kind of like you can see by the way how everything worked out. College admissions is kind of a crapshoot, and there's no guarantee of getting into any particular school. For instance, I did get waitlisted at Georgetown and rejected from USC, but I did get into UC Berkeley and UCLA and Emory with the Scholars Program, and so on and so forth, and a lot higher ranked schools with like Johns Hopkins with the Hodson Trust Scholarship or the Full Merit Scholarship to Vanderbilt and so forth. So just because you're applying to a lower ranked school doesn't mean you're gonna get in there, which I also knew because I've seen before how random the application process is. So I wanted to maximize my chances, and then from those schools that I had been offered admission to, then narrow it down from the scholarships, from the financial aid, from the programs, the strength of the academics, the location, and all of that. Like for example, I honestly never even really considered Johns Hopkins and Vanderbilt before. I just didn't know the schools very well. I hadn't researched them, and if I hadn't applied to 26 schools, I wouldn't have applied to them. But now I'm heavily considering them because of the merit scholarship, and now I know a lot more about them and what's appealing about them to me and things like that. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, you should have done that before you applied, but the point is that I'm really only considering them because of the merit scholarships, otherwise they would basically be super expensive. So yeah, I basically wanted to maximize my options and see which ones were the best for me and so forth. And it's because I exactly don't have a picky personality, and to me it's not that important like the location or the undergrad program. It's like all of the points combined together, and I'm really fine with whichever one that out of the ones I got into I prefer. So when a lot of people were saying like in my comment sections that like applying to all 8 Ivies makes no sense because they're also different, that's exactly why. I'm fine with all of them, and I find certain pros in all of them that I like and then cons that I don't like, but ultimately I will be happy and successful wherever I end up at, not because of the particular college, but because I will maximize my time there. So that's kind of just why I wanted to see my options and everything like that. Last but not least, another reason why was because I didn't want to be too confident in myself. I was pretty confident that I would get into a top 20 school, but I didn't know, first of all, which one. Like, I never had a guarantee, obviously. And second of all, I also didn't want to make a mistake that someone else I knew from a while ago did, where they applied to pretty much the top 10 schools and then like one school that was ranked, I think like 30 or something like that, and a couple other schools in the 40s. And this person had like a 1600 on the SAT, 800s on their subject tests, and like everything was perfect. And then they got waitlisted and rejected from the top 10 schools and ended up going to the school ranked 30. And I'm not saying at all that the school ranked 30 was bad in any way or like that rank matters, but the point is that they should have been able to easily get into like another school that is better because they were going into business. So for instance, like they didn't apply to Cornell's Dyson School or to UC Berkeley or like anything else that might have been better fit for them. So I also didn't want to have the situation where I overestimated myself and then ended up not getting into like any of the schools that I really wanted to get into. So yeah, I definitely wanted to have as many options as possible because, as you guys can see, I got waitlisted from Northwestern, which is ranked 11, but then I got into Dartmouth and Johns Hopkins with the scholarship. And this is pretty much the logic, I think, of everybody who applied to over 20 schools. And it's just, we're trying to maximize our chances. And also we do, at certain points, lack the confidence that we will get in somewhere. So a question that so many people have asked me is, how did I afford paying for my college apps? And the way I afforded it is by saving up. I saved up for the past year and a half exactly for this moment because I basically knew I would be applying to at least 20 colleges. So I've just been saving up over the past year and a half and just accumulated it and just used it to pay for my college apps. So I didn't get any fee waivers or anything like that. I paid for it all myself. Instead of spending my money the past year on things like clothes or, you know, cool things, I basically was planning for my college apps. And now let's get to the final question, is, was it worth it? And that kind of ties into the previous thing, is like, was it worth it spending all this money on all these college apps? And my answer is 100,000% yes. I do not regret anything. I wouldn't have applied to more colleges. I didn't, as you guys can see, I didn't apply, for instance, to like any of the other UCs or Rice or UMich or NYU, and that was because I just knew I did not want to go to those schools. Like, just for me, it was not my thing. I didn't vibe with them, and yeah, I didn't apply to those schools. So there were definitely certain schools that I did not want to go to for sure, and I didn't apply to them, but all of the schools that I applied to, I would have been perfectly happy going to. Some schools, obviously, I would have preferred over others, but otherwise there wasn't a single school where I was like, ew, gross, get away from me. Definitely 100,000% do not regret applying to 26 schools, and the reason is that options. I definitely am so happy for the amazing options that I have. The merit scholarships, just like the financial aid that I've gotten from some of the schools, and just the schools themselves that I've gotten into, and just overall, it's amazing to have so many options, because then it's like you get to choose the school that you feel really fits you the best, instead of settling for something or feeling like you're settling for something that you didn't really want in the first place, if that makes sense. So yeah, and another thing is, yes, while I may have spent a couple of grand on the college applications, ultimately in merit scholarships in total, I've gotten like around $1 million of merit scholarships. So I know you can't accumulate them all, but considering the fact that the school that I'm gonna end up at is either going to have really good financial aid or the merit scholarship, it's already by far a lot more than the money that I spent on the college applications, and I might not have had that option if I hadn't applied to that school, and I wouldn't know. So that's kind of how the logic works. But yeah, it was definitely, if you think about it, it was an investment that came with a lot more money coming out of that investment. So for me, it's like a win-win. That's pretty much everything I had to say about this topic. I hope it answers all of your questions, because I know you guys have been wondering for a very long time, even since last summer when I first posted, I think, my video of which colleges I'm applying to, and you guys were already like, why are you applying to so many colleges? So yeah, I hope that really answers your question, and I'm not encouraging you to apply to a lot of schools, although I think if you can or want to save up for it, I definitely would recommend applying to at least like 10 schools. But again, that's just me. That's just a lot of people that I know. But I'm not like encouraging you to do anything. Do you, and yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye.